What's up, guys? I hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, we will be looking at exercise 59 of our Python exercise tutorial series. Without any further ado, let's get to it. Exercise 59. Python's standard library includes a method named count that determines how many times a specific value occurs in a list. In this exercise, you will create a new function named countRange, which determines and returns the number of elements within a list that are greater than or equal to some minimum value and less than some minimum value. Your function will take three parameters: the list, the minimum value, and the maximum value. It will return an integer result greater than or equal to 0. Include a main program that demonstrates your function for several different lists, minimum values and maximum values. Ensure that your program works correctly for both lists of integers and lists of floating point numbers. Okay, guys, so let's get cracking with this question. It's nothing difficult at all, right? Essentially, all we are doing is counting the number of elements that's between a certain range, right? Because it's as specified in the text prompt of the question, right? They basically introduced us to this method. As we know, it's a count method that's built into Python, and it counts the number of times a certain value occurs in a list, and they want us to create our own function named countRange that implements the same logic. It's going to count the number of values between a certain range. So let's get to it. All in all, we have two functions as always, a main function and a processing function. The main function is what we define first. So let's get things sorted, right? What we need to identify is input, processing, and output. Input in this specific question is three kinds of input. We need to have input for the list itself, so some sort of list. We need to have some sort of maximum value and a minimum value. So the list itself can be a predefined one, right? All we need to do for that is let's create a random object, call it list or anything you like, and we populate this with values. So this is a test run, so we'll just keep it simple for now. Let's do 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Maybe you want to do 10. Let's do 9, 23, 56. Let's do 46, and maybe one more. Let's do 2 again. Okay, that's the list object we have. Now to get the maximum value, all we can do is float input, please enter the maximum value. So this will be provided by the user. The minimum value will be same logic, right? Get it from the user. minimum. Let's change the input prompt. Please enter the minimum value. That's good. Now, the next important thing for us to do would be for us to actually have that function, the countRange function, that's going to, perform some logic behind the scenes and return us with a value which is the count, the number of elements between a certain range. So all we need to do for that is let's just call this a variable m. We'll set it equals to countRange, and we are passing in, as they said in the text prompt. They said that the function takes three parameters: the list, the minimum, and the maximum value. So let's proceed to pass those into this function. So maximum, minimum. So let's do that. That's fine. What we can do is let's actually change the order of these. I think it would make it much more readable. We'll ask for minimum first, then maximum. Otherwise, we basically have to mentally kind of structure the way in which we are going to pass in our inputs. So that's better. So we have it in order. First, the list, minimum, maximum. The same is for the parameters of the function. The list, the minimum, the maximum. Now, within the main function, there has to be some sort of output that's, shown to the user. In this case, all we need to do is, let's do counting the elements in, and we can pass in here the list L that are between, and okay, so these are going to be values. What we can do is %.2f and %.2f are, and yeah, this should be good. What we can do within this is basically format again. This is going to be an integer value, so all we need to do really is just pass %d, and if we provide formatting for those placeholders, what exactly are we passing in here? We are passing, so L is fine, L is sorted out, and then there's these three placeholders here. So what we are passing is minimum, maximum, and M. So let's go ahead and do that. Minimum, maximum, and M. That's good. Now, as always, it's time for us to define the processing function. Count range. The three parameters are L, minimum, maximum. We initialize a variable called this count. It's going to be the incrementer or the counter variable. All we are doing is for I in L, for every element in the list itself, we are iterating through the elements one by one, and if the minimum element, so this is actually interesting, guys. This is probably the first time that a few of you may be seeing this type of syntax in Python, right? And it's nothing difficult at all. So let's talk about this for loop. You guys are, like, if you are doing Python, chances are you are super familiar with, you know, base mathematics, and this is basically a chained operator. A chained operator in a sense where we have more than one comparison operator. It's simple mathematics, right? What this means is that if I is greater than or equal to the minimum and less than the maximum, then we'll increment the count variable by 1. Because what this means is that it's within the range. Okay, I do hope that makes sense. It's nothing difficult at all. I'm pretty sure you guys got that covered. Now, after the iteration of each element has been done, all we need to do is return the count variable to the main function, right? And as you can see here, M is basically storing that count variable from the main function, right? Or inside the main function. And that concludes the logic for this program, guys. We make sure that we don't forget to call the main function. The main function is the point of entry for the program. Okay guys, so now it's time for us to test this program. Let's proceed to do that. Control enter. Please enter the minimum value. Let's do maybe let's do 2. Please enter the maximum value. Let's do 5. So if I hit enter, right, the total number of elements that we should be returned with is 4, right? Because the maximum value is 5, the minimum is 2, and everything in between that will be counted. So we should be returned with 4, and we see that we do get 4. Counting the elements in, the list that are between 2 and 5, it's 4. That's as we expected, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that works well. Now let's see if the program works correctly for lists of integers and floating points. So we've tested integer values. Let's float these values, right? So let's do 1.5. I'm just adding random floating point numbers. So 2.9, 6.99, 7.65. Let's do 10.21, 9.13, 23.14, 56.19. Let's do 46.19. Yeah, that should be good. 2.30. Let's go ahead and test this program. So let's now specify, we want from a certain floating point range. Let's do 2.32 as the minimum, and let's do 5.23 as the maximum, and it should be three values. So that's good. Notice, guys, that the reason as to why it fluctuates, because if you think about it, right, here the value we chose as the minimum and maximum is kind of similar to the value we chose in the floating point instances, but here we get 4 and here we get 3, which means that in some cases the maximum value is being counted as a part of, it's included within that range, and in some instances the maximum value is not being counted as part of that range. So to be honest with you, I won't really tweak that while in the video. You can figure that out as part of maybe an additional kind of logic for your function. All in all, we have successfully completed this program. Remember, the reason as to why the fluctuations occur with regards to the count variable is because it has something to do with the condition itself, right? So you guys can tweak that and play around with that. Apart from this, I would say this program is one that's very interesting, right? Essentially, what this program does is it helps us, or it allowed us to create our own function that counts the number of values within a certain range. Okay? And one thing I will mention to you, instead of chaining your operators like this, go ahead, try and use the logical operators themselves, okay, which means the and or. Okay, in this case we will be working with the and operator. So that's that. With that, guys, we've effectively and efficiently completed exercise 59 of our Python exercise tutorial series. Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying till the end of the video. Do make sure to leave a like for this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to learn about more technology related, concepts. And good luck with your work, guys. I'll see you in the next YouTube video.